Carol Ann Stevens was born in Cardiff in 1952. She was 6 years old in the spring of 1959. She was a bright, rosy-cheeked little girl with brown hair and steel-rimmed glasses, described by those who knew her as confident, chatty, and endlessly curious. She was tall for her age and full of life. She lived with her mother, Mavis, her stepfather, Ken, and her siblings in a modest terraced home on Malaphant Street in Cathays, a working-class neighbourhood in the north of Cardiff. Its streets were lined with corner shops and tightly packed houses, the kind of close-knit community where neighbours knew each other and children played outside without much worry. On the 7th of April, 1959, a Tuesday, it was raining heavily in Cardiff. Just after midday, Mavis sent Carol to the nearby Wilkins shop on Dogfield Street to buy cigarettes and sweets. It was a routine errand, the kind of small task a child might be trusted with in the neighbourhood. Carol went, bought what her mother had asked for, and returned home. She handed over the purchases, then told her mother she was going back outside to play. She said she would not be long. Mavis was cooking dinner. She told Carol not to stay out too long. Carol went back out into the rain. She never came home. Mavis later recalled that Carol had seemed unusually eager to go back outside that afternoon, almost as if there had been something pre-arranged that prompted her to leave again. In the weeks before that Tuesday, Carol had told her friends something that, at the time, seemed innocent and exciting. She said she had a new uncle who was taking her for lovely rides in his motor car. No one thought much of it. Children often use the word uncle for adults who were not related. It was a different era. On the afternoon of April 7th, 1959, a witness saw Carol near the corner of Robert Street and Fair Oak Road, close to the Fair Oak garage in Cathays. She was seen approaching a green saloon car parked at the roadside. She knocked on the window. Inside was a dark-haired man, believed to be in his 30s, wearing a trench coat and a brimmed hat. He appeared to be reading or writing on papers. Carol got into the car. The car drove away. When Carol failed to return home, Mavis raised the alarm. Police were called. What followed was one of the largest search operations Wales had ever seen. Thousands of cars were stopped across Cardiff. Ports were monitored in case the child was being taken out of the country. Passengers boarding the Fishguard boat train for Ireland were observed. Officers searched Cathay Cemetery, empty houses, and woodland areas across the city. Residents were asked to check their garden sheds. Farmers were told to search outbuildings. There was even discussion of draining Roath Park Lake. Scotland Yard sent detectives to assist the local force. For 2 weeks, there was nothing. Then, on April 21st, 1959, exactly 2 weeks after Carol vanished, a surveyor working in a narrow river culvert near the remote hamlet of Horeb in Carmarthenshire discovered the body of a small child. It was around 60 miles from her home. Carol had been placed in a narrow ravine beside a stream, partially concealed beneath branches and leaves. She was still wearing the same clothes she had on when she left home. Her grey skirt had been pulled down around her feet. One of her light brown shoes lay 5 feet from her body. The other had been carried further downstream by the water. It was believed she had been dead for about a week before she was found. Carol Ann Stevens was 3 feet 6 inches tall. She was 6 years old. The cause of death was suffocation. She had been subjected to a serious assault. More than 400 people gathered outside Horeb to hear the verdict of the initial inquest. The question that haunted investigators remained the same. Who had taken her? And how had her body ended up in a remote hamlet 60 miles from Cardiff? The location of Horeb told investigators something important. The hamlet was small and isolated. The ravine where Carol's body had been found was beside the road, but entirely concealed by hedgerows. You would not know it was there unless you had been there before. Investigators were clear on one point. The killer knew Horeb. This was not somewhere a person stumbled across. This was somewhere a person had chosen. Police interviewed all employees at the local brickworks. They searched the area. They focused their attention on the driver of the green saloon car seen with Carol on the day she disappeared. Despite all of this, no one was charged. The investigation lost momentum. The case went cold. Carol's killer was never found. Decades passed. The case was reviewed, reopened, and re-examined multiple times. It was one of the oldest unsolved murder cases on the books of South Wales Police. In the cold case re-examinations, investigators uncovered a memoir written by a former police detective superintendent named Roy Davies. It had been one of his very first cases as an officer. In the memoir, Davies wrote about a man he had interviewed at the time of the murder. The man's name was Ronald Edward Murray. Murray had been born in Australia. He had come to Wales and worked for a time as a steeplejack and steel erector. From January 1951 to April 1952, 8 years before Carol's murder, he had worked at the J.P. Zammit brick factory in Horeb. The brickworks was situated yards from the ravine where Carol's body was later found. By 1959, Murray was working as a travelling salesman for Carson's Chocolates in Bristol. His employer provided workers with company cars. The cars were green Morris Minors. His delivery routes covered the Cathays area of Cardiff, the very neighbourhood where Carol Stevens lived on Malaphant Street. An employment document discovered by the cold case team revealed something chilling. Murray had written to his employer requesting more children's lines of chocolates and sweets. Murray had been questioned by police at the time of the murder in 1959. He claimed he had an alibi. He said he had been unwell that day, that he had hit a dog with his car, had put the dog in the vehicle, and driven home. He said when he got out of the car, the dog ran away and he had gone to look for it. A neighbour later described him as a man who told a lot of lies. His alibi was not fully pursued at the time. He was released. Years later, Murray's wife Della died in 1969 from gas poisoning in the family home. The inquest returned a verdict of accidental death. Murray gave a convoluted explanation at the inquest, describing a domestic trick involving the gas hob and his son that he said had gone horribly wrong. Relatives did not believe him. They suspected he had orchestrated her death. No charges were ever brought. Ronald Edward Murray died in 1973. He was never charged with anything in connection with the murder of Carol Ann Stevens. Whatever he knew, he took with him. The cold case team, led by former Chief Constable Jackie Roberts, concluded that Murray had the means, the local knowledge, the access, and the opportunity. He knew Horeb from his years at the brickworks. He drove a green Morris Minor through Cathays. He sold sweets to children. He had no verifiable alibi. His own supervisor in the original investigation had named him in private notes as the killer. Former Chief Constable Roberts said that if the case were happening today, what the team had uncovered would be placed before the Crown Prosecution Service. Modern DNA testing was carried out on the clothing Carol was wearing when she died. Her cardigan, her skirt, her glasses. Investigators hoped that advances in forensic science might finally provide the answers that had eluded the case for over 60 years. The testing could not return a conclusive result. One of the children who had grown up in Cathays and remembered Carol from the neighborhood was a boy named Jerry Blake. He knew her. He grew up, became a police detective, and spent part of his career trying to find her killer. He said in later years that her disappearance and murder was the reason he had joined the police force. Carol Ann Stevens was 6 years old. She had brown hair and steel-rimmed glasses. She went to the corner shop for her mother on a rainy Tuesday afternoon in April 1959. Came home, said she was going back outside to play, and said she would not be long. Her killer has never been identified. Her case remains open. Hello everyone, thank you for listening, and drop any feedback below. I'd love to hear your thoughts. And I hope to see you again in the next case, right here on Cold Case UK.